Welcome to the presentation today from Waadookawaad Amikwag. I'll tell the story of Line 393, how it came to be, and what has been done along the way to protect. The Line 3 pipeline was installed through northern Minnesota over half a century ago, with the pipe running through Leech Lake Reservation and Fond du Lac Reservation lands. Following the Kalamazoo oil spill on Line 6B in 2010, the federal government ordered a consent decree for Enbridge to apply for a permit to replace its Line 3 project. This pipeline was controversial not only because of Enbridge's history of spills, but because it would be bringing the dirtiest oil from the tar sands in the Athabasca through Minnesota to Lake Superior, where it would mostly be shipped offshore, but also because it's a feeder for Line 5 project, where Enbridge currently has proposals on the table in Wisconsin and Michigan for additional work. It was also controversial because rather than follow its path it had already taken, Enbridge proposed a new route through Virgin Corridor, some of which had no utilities at all. While Minnesota pipeline routing rules say to avoid steep slopes, open water, wetlands, and forests, agencies permitted this project anyway through these very wet and steep locations, the exact places where Waadookawaad Amikwag is finding the worst of the damages. While the state and Enbridge called this Line 3 replacement project, opposition forces called it a Line 3 expansion and relocation project. Line 3 would grow from 24-inch diameter to a 30-inch diameter as Line 93, its replacement, traversed 355 miles from North Dakota to Wisconsin.
We warned of the dangers and stressed our concerns to state and federal agencies, all to no avail. The state and feds didn't do their homework either, trusting too much in Enbridge's promises, and now we're all paying the price.
Enbridge appeared to think that they could thread between the reservations and avoid concerns with tribal nations. They failed to grasp the treaty rights required within ceded territories, as state agencies ignored their responsibilities for the free, prior, and informed consent they needed from tribal consultation. Most of the process appeared to be simply a notification of the public and the tribes, rather than any serious and diligent public engagement. During permitting, there were over 68,000 comments in opposition to the project, while only 3,754 wrote in support, with most of those being pre-printed cards. The opposition comments were often long, well-researched reports on concerns, many coming from local Minnesota experts, and some of those being retired agency professionals familiar with pipeline construction. When the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency finally agreed to meet with some of these experts on February 5, 2020, to discuss how the agency might deny the 401 certification, Commissioner Laura Bishop walked into the meeting brandishing a just-released announcement saying the agency would be approving the draft 401 certification. This felt a clear sign the MPCA had no interest in considering the voices of opposition. Multiple contested case hearings challenged the decision by the agencies, with a dissent from Judge Reyes claiming the Public Utility Commission's determination of need to be arbitrary and capricious. Multiple tribes and environmental groups sued to prevent the project, yet the Public Utilities Commission granted the permits, as did the DNR and MPCA. It was clear the state was not heeding calls to stop Line 3, and so many did much more. Relay for Our Water had dozens of people carrying water from Mississippi headwaters around the state and returning them to Coffee Pot Landing, all to show the importance of water for all. A small group organized to create Watch the Line Minnesota to document the pre-construction conditions of the land in case remediation would be needed. Many begged for a stay to protect Indian country during a global pandemic. In July of 2021, as Enbridge drilled under Mississippi River at her headwaters, a group of orgs invited governors from the 10 states adjoining the Great River to see what was transpiring with their own eyes. Mere weeks after the DNR had granted Enbridge a tenfold increase in their water appropriations permit, without public or tribal consultation, and during a time of deepening drought in northern Minnesota, participants were able to see Upper Rice Lake in drought conditions following a pull of many truckloads of water from the lake for Enbridge construction. At the Mississippi River crossing, multiple frackouts were evident that day. A Minnesota senator observing the frackouts later sought information on how much drilling mud was left behind in the land. Enbridge has yet to provide details. In November 2021, a coalition organized a fixed-wing thermal flyover of the new Line 393 corridor, finding ample evidence of hydrology changes across the state. These would generate the evidence that our group would soon be corroborating. Nish Ikwewaga Wijibimosewag East Savannah River. Waadookawaad Amikwag formed after two women walked along with East Savannah River, a place they'd monitored before and which now showed strange orange discoloration. A grassroots group formed, using tools to ground truth the flyover data that had shown almost 4 dozen potential aquifer breaches along the Enbridge corridor. At that time, the state had acknowledged 3 breaches. Our discoveries confirmed evidence of aquifer water bleeding from the land in multiple locations. Though our data was shared with state agencies and even the Attorney General, we've seen no response to what we believe are criminal acts across the state of Minnesota. As we saw little work from the state to communicate to the impacted people of Minnesota and the tribal nations herein, we developed a website to report the damage information directly to the public. Our extensive website covers the various forms of damages, along with technical details from documented damage sites. It includes a timeline of our work, giving links to letters from legislators supporting our calls for an independent investigation of this project to determine why it has failed to protect water, land, and people. And now a People Not Polluters campaign has recently launched, calling attention to a dozen projects across Minnesota where regulatory capture appears to be allowing the pollution of the land while ignoring the people impacted. The seeds of Waadookawaad Amikwag have been nourished by the soil created by those who came before us, and we hope our fruits will nourish all those who follow our path.